Hello, welcome to another Photoshop class in our series. And today we're going to do something very interesting. We're going to be building a flyer from the things we've learned from our previous class in Photoshop, which was our first introductory class where we talked about the layers panels, different panels in Photoshop. And we also talked about, we also saw how to draw simple shapes, how to enter text, and how to resize things and the rules when it comes to resizing things in Photoshop. And we did a simple design, like a flag. So we're going to go a little bit further this time. We're going to design a flyer. So before we go into that, let's look at some of the parts of a typical flyer. So parts of a flyer, you usually have a background. So you might want to start thinking about what kind of background you want to use for your flyer. So it could be a solid white background, it could be a solid black background. So it depends on your creativity and what you intend to achieve, and also the brand you're designing for, or maybe if it's a church or something. So you might also get ideas for your background when you search for inspiration. The next thing is the focal point of the design, which is what is going to attract the attention of the viewers. So it's usually a picture or a text. It's a text stylized in a particular way or a combination of both. We're going to see that. So if you look at this flyer here, you see that probably the first place your eye would fall on this image, on this flyer, is the image of this person here, or this. So these are the focal points of the design. Another thing is the text copy or content. So this is what is going to be in the flyer, like the text you see in the flyer. So the client is usually going to send that to you. Then the size depends on what the flyer is for. So if the flyer is for social media, usually the size is 1080 pixels by 1080 pixels. But if it's something you're going to print, it's usually A4 size. So today we're going to be doing something for social media, so we're going to use 1080 pixels by 1080 pixels. Then another thing is the brand logo. So you're going to ask the client to send you the brand logo if the logo is going to, if the flyer is going to need the brand logo. Then colors, usually you get your colors from the brand colors or pictures in the flyer, or you can use your own creativity and also from inspirations that you're going to get online. So if you come here, these are the content, the text that we talked about, and then you see that the colors here are predominantly orange and green. So you see that the logo here, this is the logo, has orange color. So the person decided to use a lot of orange and then pick green from this picture here. And remember, I said that you could pick your pictures from either the brand colors, and you could pick your colors either from the brand colors, that's the logo colors, or from pictures in the flyer to make your design more interesting. So these are various flyers that you can see here. You can come and get inspiration. You remember we talked about Pinterest in one of our design classes. It's best place to get inspiration when it comes to design. So you can come here, pick. These are different flyer designs. So the focal point is this guy, and then you have this text here giving the highest hierarchy, and this is the logo, and this is their color. The color they use is just blue, and I'm sure most of the blue comes from the shirts, so that it matches with the shirt and all. So yeah, you just come here, look for inspiration, and pick the one that interests you. So for our flyer today, we're going to, like I said, we're going to be doing something for social media. So the size is going to be 1080 by 1080. So what you do is open Photoshop. Once Photoshop is opened, click on create new as usual. Then I want you to come over here. The first thing to do is you might want to give your flyer a name. So we're doing something, we're going to be designing, let me show you a sample of what we're going to be designing. So we're going to try to design this a very simple flyer, not much, not too fancy, just for us to get our hands, just get some hands-on experience. So the name of the brand is Golden Data with data plans for our network. So just want to do something simple like this with the contact and our focal point here. So to do that in Photoshop, I'm going to name this golden data here, and like I said, our size is going to be 1080 by 1080. Make sure this is in pixels. If yours is in millimeters or inches, please change it back to pixels, and then I'm going to change this to 1080. That's 1080 1080 by 1080. Then your resolution should be 300 to get the best quality. 300, not 3000, and the unit is in pixels per inch. So your color mode should be RGB, background content white, color profile. Yours should be on this. It's like I change mine, and then just leave everything the way it is here. Then click create. So for this design, we're going to be using some resources. I have created a folder with the resources we're going to be needing. Usually I'll be getting these resources from the internet as I design, but in order to not to make the video too long and make it easy for you to access, I just created a folder with all these elements we're going to be using. So I'm going to create a Google Drive for this so that you can get these materials, these resources, and practice with. So I'll drop the link to the Google Drive on the description of this video on YouTube, so you can access it and get this and practice along. Okay, so if you remember from the parts of our flyers that we talked about, I mentioned that the first thing you should think about is probably the background. So what we want to do, maybe go online, and usually you get inspiration, and you notice that most flyers here have a white background with some texture to it. So most flyers have that white background with some texture to it. So you see this one, white background with people in the background there. So I came up with this background here, kind of just a paper background. So you will have this once you download this from the Google Drive. So just download it to your PC, save it in a folder, and name the folder flyer design. Maybe put the folder on your desktop just like I have here. Okay, so let's begin with our background. So I'll just drag and drop the background. So that's how you drop images in Photoshop. You can do the other complicated way, but I personally just like dragging and dropping the image. So we just dragged and dropped our background. So I hope you remember what these are for. This is to accept if you drop something, to accept what you've dropped, and this is just to reject it. So before I accept it, I want to resize it. So what I want you to do, click on it, make sure you're on the move tool, and your mouse cursor is this black triangle kind of shape here. Then move the background to the top edge, and then bring your mouse to this point until it changes to this double-sided arrow. Click and hold, then press and hold the shift key on your keyboard to resize it. So move your mouse diagonally until it fits to the edge of the design. You can go beyond it, so Photoshop doesn't mind, you can just go beyond it. And then when you're done with that, you can either press enter on your keyboard or press accept here. So now you have a background, but the problem with our background is that it's too visible, it's just too obvious. So we want to make it a little bit subtle, just like here. Just like we have here, the background is not just too obvious like that, it's a bit subtle, a bit hidden. So how you do that in the Photoshop is from the layers panel. So the layers panel is very important, but we need to rename this layer to background so that we always know that this is our background. So this is our background here, this is the correct name, so double click and rename to background. So to make this less visible, we're going to add some transparency to it. But what we call transparency in Photoshop is opacity. So if you reduce the opacity of an object, it becomes less visible. If you increase the opacity, it becomes more visible. So the highest opacity is usually 100%. So if you look here in the layers panel, if we click on the background, you see that it has opacity here at 100%, and that is why it's very visible. So if I come here and slide it down to 3%, you see that the background disappears. That it's now at 0%, so it's completely transparent, you cannot see it. But if you increase it a little bit, you start noticing the background. So that is how you make things either very visible or less visible or faded to the background. So I'm going to leave this at let me see, 20%. 20% is too small, so let me try 50%. Yeah, so 50% is okay. So one thing I forgot to do is we're going to create our grids, which will help us align our designs elements properly. So to do that, come to your shape tool, right click and select the rectangle tool, bring your pointer. So if you select the rectangle tool, you have this cross cursor here. Bring your pointer to anywhere in your design and just click once. You get this window. So I usually use 64 by 64 as the width and height for my square, because what I want to create now is a square. So 64 by 64 will give you a square. I don't feel anything here. I just click OK. So it's going to create a black square with 64 pixels. That's the height and width is 64 pixels. If you notice, I'm still in my shape tool, so I'm going to press V on my keyboard or click here to go back to the move tool. So most of you don't usually go back to the move tool after creating a shape, because if you don't do that, it might be difficult to move the shape around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the shape to the top left corner of my design, and notice that when I move it close to the top left corner, it kind of acts like a magnet and snaps properly. If your own doesn't do that, go to view, then go to snap. Make sure snap is checked, so select snap, then go to snap tool and select all. Okay, now all we want to do is we want to create what we call guides for our design. So to do that, make sure your rulers are visible. So these are your rulers. If your rulers are not visible, press Ctrl R on your keyboard. So I've just made mine invisible now. If I press Ctrl R, the rulers will come back. Or you can come to, I think, view, rulers. Yeah, so you can come to view and rulers. It will also appear. So what I want to do is I want to create guides for my design. So what you do is the guides can come from either the top or from the left. They can come from the bottom or this side, because obviously you don't have any rulers here. So I'm going to begin with my left here. So I'm just going to drag out. So how do you do that? Just click close to just bring your mouse, your cursor close to the ruler, click and hold and drag out a guide. So this is the guide here you're dragging around. Just drop it at any point on the design. Select your rectangle and drag the guide back until it snaps or magnets it. Yeah, so that just snaps. So created the guides for the left hand side. So let's create for the top. So same process, drag the guide, select the rectangle. So while we're selecting the rectangle, so that Photoshop can help us snap this guide properly to that 64 size that we set. So we are done with this side. Just select your rectangle, bring it to this bottom right corner, and we're going to repeat the same thing. So drag out another guide from here, select your rectangle, your square, it will snap. Click outside to deselect, drag another one out, select your square, drag it close to it, and it will snap. Click outside, and so we've achieved this. We no longer need the square, so just select it and press delete on your keyboard, and you see that we have this this margin created here. And let me just show you quickly. In most designs, you see that they have some space around here, so around the edges here, so the designs are not going straight to the edges, and that is why we created that. If you also look here, you see that they have some spacing there, so that's just to create. This is another one, so you see how it uses a lot of space. Yeah, it depends on what you want to achieve. So let's go back to our design. The next thing we're going to do now is to bring our logo. So go back to the flyer design folder. This is going to be our logo. We drag and drop, as simple as that. So what I want to do now is to resize this logo because it's too big, obviously. Then how do you resize? I always recommend resizing from here, here, or here, here when you're dealing with pictures. Okay, so this is a picture or shape or anything. So when you to resize, you just bring your mouse cursor here until you have this two-sided arrow. Click and hold, press shift key, resize. I want you to make your logo about, so you see it's showing the size in pixels, so make yours 200 pixels by 200 pixels, just like I did mine. So you see, if you're dragging, now it's at 455 pixels, so I'll just keep dragging until it gets to 200 pixels, then stop and release. And you can press accept here. Then I want you to bring the logo, use your arrow keys to position the logo so that the top and the left side are touching our margins. So I'll have this perfect alignment. So the next thing to do is enter our business name. Very simple. Just click on the text tool here. Make sure it's on horizontal type 2. Then just click very close to the logo and type golden data. So that's the name of the business. Now yours might be white color, it might be big, might be something else. Don't panic. Just type what you have there. When you're done typing, click accept here. Then you can come here to the properties panel. Make sure the text layer is selected. Okay, and also make sure that you're back to the move tool. Select your text layer, so your text layer is here. Select your text. You can do that from your layers panel or selecting it directly here. Then once the text is selected, you see that its properties will appear. Then you can come and change the color. If the color is not, if it's white and you cannot see it, you can quickly change it to black. But I want to change mine to I want to pick a color from the logo so that everything rhymes properly. So what I'll do is click on color here under the properties panel. Make sure your golden data text is selected, and click on color. So if you drag out from the color, you get this tool here called an eyedropper tool, and this is used to like steal colors from any object. So I can come here or pick colors. Let me use the word steal. So pick color here. I will try to pick something darker. That's nice. Now while you're you can also come and change the font size. So the font we are going to be using is, sorry, not the font size. We're going to change the font or the typeface to Arial. So change yours to Arial. Just type Arial, and you'll see Arial bold. So we use Arial bold, and the size should be 8 points. That's 8 points here. I'll select 8 points, and of course the color is this. Then make sure your text is selected. Use your arrow keys to just bring it very close to the logo, and click outside to see what you've done. That is nice. Alright, so the next thing is to bring in our focal points, which is going to be an image of a person holding a phone, since we're talking about data. Ooh, just notice that this is spelling is wrong. So if you want to change the text, just double click on it. You can then edit it, so it should be holding data. Yeah, so click accept to accept it, And then let's go back to bringing our focal point. So image of this person here holding a phone and excited, so we're going to just drag and drop. Now you notice that this picture has a background. Okay, so we're going to have to remove the background, so just click here to accept it, and I want you to pay very close attention to this particular session. Now I want to remove the background of this picture here, so that we can, it is transparent and we can easily use it in our design. So Photoshop does it for you automatically. Usually before 2020, you have to go and manually use this selection tool and start selecting places to remove the background. So you can do it. That's one way to do it. So maybe for the sake of those using an older version of Photoshop, let me just show you the older way to do it. So very simple. I want you to come to this tool here called the quick selection tool. If you don't see it, yours could be in object selection tool or something else, or magic wand. So just right click and select this quick selection tool, then click on the background. Okay, once you click on the background, I want you to come here. You can just press delete on your keyboard to do that. So it will not allow you because it's a smart object. So what you do is come down here where you have add layer mask and just click on add layer mask, and then press Ctrl I on your keyboard. So that will remove the background for you. So that's the old method, but the new method, Photoshop does it for you automatically. So let me just undo that. Just undo that. Okay, now if you want Photoshop to do it for you automatically, click outside, select the picture. Now go back to your properties panel. What do you see appear? Edit contents, convert to links, convert to layers. Now usually what's supposed to appear here is remove back. You're supposed to have a remove background option here, but because this picture is what we call a smart object, because this picture is a smart object, Photoshop cannot work on it directly. Why is it a smart object? It's a smart object because we dragged and drop it from outside Photoshop. We did not create this picture inside Photoshop. Okay, but if you look at the layers panel of this picture, you see that the icon here has a tiny document icon, and this tells you that this picture is what we call a smart object. A smart object are things outside Photoshop. So but if you look at this text now, golden data, you see that this text does not have this icon here because we generated this text inside Photoshop, but this picture was outside Photoshop, so we have to go outside and drop the picture. So to make this picture to come inside of Photoshop, or to be generated inside Photoshop, we need to convert it to layers. So just select the picture and then convert it. Click on convert to layers and click yes. So once that is done, you will notice that the little document icon here has gone out. That tells you that this is now a layer inside Photoshop. Now go back to your properties panel, scroll down, and then you see you now have the remove background option. Click on it and allow Photoshop to do the magic. It might take some time on your PC, so mine is already done, and you see that the background has been removed automatically. So that's the best way to remove background. Did you just notice that I accidentally moved my background? So to avoid that or prevent that from happening, select the background layer and we are going to lock it. So click on this padlock icon to lock the background, and you see that this time I cannot move it around. Okay, so let's go back to our picture. So I'm just going to move the picture. I'm going to move it to the bottom here, and then move it until this part of the arm lines up with this margin here. So you can use the arrow keys if the mouse is giving you trouble, so use the arrow keys like I'm doing now. And we have our focal image here, and then we're going to add something to it. So we're going to take this, since we're talking about data, and so data of course involves social media, so we're going to drag and drop this. And I want you to notice that this picture has a transparent background. It doesn't have a solid background, so if you drop it on Photoshop, you see that it doesn't have a background, it is transparent. So you can download transparent images from Google. So I'll just keep it like this. Maybe reduce it a little bit so that the phone is visible. Okay. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is enter our text. So we're going to enter our main heading text here, and it's going to be our WOOF data for all networks. So click on your text tool, just click anywhere in the design, type WOOF data for all networks. Okay, when you're done, press accept, go back to the move tool, make sure the text is selected. We're going to change the typeface font to Verdana, so VER, Verdana bold. So Verdana is VERDANA, so Verdana bold. Going to make the size, let's see, 24. Okay, yeah. So when we do that, you notice that the text has become too long. So we're going to divide the text. So to do that, just double click and then bring your cursor, that's this blinking thing here, bring it close to this A here. Just press enter on your keyboard, and now we divide it so that it's visible. Go back to your move tool. Let's move this to the edge. You can use your arrow keys. So because this is touching the head of the person, alright, so because the text is touching the head here, we're going to just reduce it a little bit. Remember I said always reduce from this side. Press and hold shift while reducing. If that doesn't happen, try again. Press and hold shift. While you're holding shift is to maintain the proportions, so everything looks nice. So like I said, while you're doing that is to maintain the proportions. If you resize it like this, you see you start distorting the text, and this is very unprofessional. Okay, so undo. So the best thing is always resize from this side while holding shift key. That is more professional. So press enter when you're done. Break it down a little bit, and then we're going to change the color by picking a color from these focal points, the shirt here. So make sure you're in the move tool, your text is selected. On the layers panel, click on color, pick a color, just pick a dark purple color from the shirts, and just adjust it a little bit. If you want to use the exact color I'm using, you can just copy my hex code. So it's 472349. So remember hex code from our colors class. So this is where you apply it. If you want to use the exact color I'm using here, you can just use my hex code. Okay, so like that. So it is matching with this. Okay. Alright, so the next thing to do is to bring in our networks. So the logo for our different networks. Okay. But before we go into that, let's tidy up our design. So we want to give some things name. So this is our logo. So name it logo. So as a professionally, it is good to name your layers. So we're going to name these socials, and all this social media stuff that's flying around. So we'll select this person, and you can just name him person. Just name him person. So that we know what we are selecting whenever we click on anything. So, but for text, the Photoshop automatically names them for you, so that you can easily select it. So something like golden data is named golden data, and our WOOF data for all networks is also named our WOOF data for all networks by Photoshop. Okay, so let's go to bringing in our let's get to bringing in these guys. So what you do is select them. So to select multiple things, just hold control, press and hold control. So 1, 2, 3, 4, so 4 networks. Then drag and drop them, or if you don't, if the controllers give you issues, you can just drag and drop them one by one, but it's better you learn it. You can always pause the video and check. So once you drop the logos, it might cover up your screen like this. Don't panic. So just come to this side like I said, but this time we want to resize it from the center. So we're going to press Shift and Alt, that's Alt. Press and hold Shift and Alt on your keyboard and just drag. So while we're doing it, so that it resizes from the center, so that we can just see what we are doing easily. So you press Enter when you are done resizing one. The next one will come, resize also. Press Enter. The next one will follow, resize. Press Enter. The next one will follow. Remember, we're pressing and holding Shift and Alt to resize from the center. Press Enter, and I think that is all. So what we're going to do is just separate them, and let's use the MTN as a reference. So the MTN logo. So just resize it, and I'm going to make mine about, let's make it 100. So let's target 100 pixels. Yeah, 100 by 100. So when you're done, press Enter, then bring the MTN to probably around here. Let's bring it to around here. Make sure it's properly aligned. So we want these to have the same width and height as the MTN. So we could just do them 100 by 100 too. But I want us to use another professional way by using our guide. So just drag it to guide here, select the MTN logo, and just snap it to the top. Click outside to deselect, drag another guide from the top again, select the MTN logo, and just snap it. So this time we're not going to be doing left and right, but we just need the top and the bottom for reference. So pick up the first logo and just align the top to the line, and then resize it until the bottom also lines up with the bottom line. Press Enter. You can just move it around a bit with your arrow keys. Let's get the next one. Get the top to match first. So you see that Photoshop is trying to give us the exact distance between them, so we just obey that. Good. Press Enter when you're done. Then the final one is Airtel. You notice that 17 it is giving us. It might not happen in yours, so don't panic. So make sure it fits perfectly. Press Enter. So as simple as that, we have all our networks here. So we don't need this again. We can just take them up to get rid of them. Let's get rid of this one, but don't get rid of this ones here. So we have our networks, everything looking nice and clean. So next thing we want to do is to name them. So this is MTN. Let's name it quickly, MTN. I'll pause the video and name the rest so you know how to name it. Name your MTN, 9 Mobile, Glo, and Airtel. Alright, so I've renamed all my layers, MTN, 9 Mobile, Airtel, and Glo. So one thing we could do again to make everything nice and tidy is we'll select this, we select all of them and then group them. So hold Shift key, select the first one, 2, 3, 4. Press Ctrl G. Ctrl G, G for great, G for goat. On your keyboard, that's Ctrl G to group it. So you see that it creates a group. What we want to do is double click on the group and name it to networks. So while we're doing this, is just keep our designs neat and easy to understand. And also, if you group them like this, you can now move them at once. To do that, select, deselect, let's click outside. Now change your auto select from layers to groups. So what this means that instead of selecting layers, Photoshop will be targeting groups. So if you select this and move around, you see that it's moving the group around. So Ctrl Z to undo that. You can also change the size of the group if you want, and so many other things. But if you go back to, if you click outside and go back to layers, then select, you see that I select only one in here. Okay, so we're done with this. Final thing we're going to do is to put the WhatsApp number for the person, for them to contact the person. So for the business. So let's go to our resources folder. We have our WhatsApp logo here. So usually you go online to download these things. Maybe as you're designing, let me just show you how it works. What you do is just type WhatsApp logo, or any other logo you want to design. So you want to download for, if it's Facebook logo, you search for Facebook logo. Click on images. Now I want to teach you a secret for getting transparent, that's the ones with transparent background. Click on tools, click on color, select transparent. So it's going to give you options with transparent, only options that have transparent background. So you see this has a transparent background, and once when you copy it and paste it in Photoshop, it's going to give you a transparent background. So that's how you look for icons like that. Okay, so quickly let's just drop this, resize it. So I'm resizing to let's go 160. So 160 is good for me. I'll use my arrow keys to move this. So I'm pressing shift and my arrow keys so that it moves faster. Click outside to deselect. Now we're going to enter the phone number of the person. So you can enter any phone number because it doesn't matter. Use your text tool, click. So I'm going to enter 915. Yeah, so alright, so if the phone number is too big, just go to your move tool, or accept it first and go to your move tool. Make sure the phone number is selected, then you might just want to reduce the size to C12, and that should fix it. If it's still touching the body but it's still visible, let's just bring it down a little bit. We can also reduce the size of the WhatsApp logo to, let's say, 124. Okay, so just use your arrow keys to reposition it. Bring these guys to. So I want to align both of them to the center. I'll just select both of them and click on align to center here. So it's aligned properly to the center. So with this, voila, we are done with our design. So the next thing to do is just save your work. So go to File, Save, or you can press Ctrl S on your keyboard, then click Save. So I don't want to save this because I already have it saved. Then if you want to export this as a picture so that you can send it to the client, what you do is come to File, Export, Export As. Okay, then you get this window here. Make sure your golden data is selected. It can be either JPEG or PNG, anyone works, but now it's on JPEG. Make sure it's 1080 by 1080. Leave the rest, leave everything the way it is, and just click export. So when you click export, it will ask you where you want to save it. So probably your desktop or your documents, anywhere. So just save it anywhere you feel like you want to save it, and then click save. So I'm not going to save mine because I already have one saved. I'm just going to cancel. So with that, you're done. You can then send it to me as an email to our submission channels. That's training@aige.info and open at aige.info. So go ahead practice. You can even make it better than what I've done, which is what I'll appreciate very well. You can even make it better than what I've designed. But this is just a basic flyer for you to get your hands um, moving with Photoshop. So go ahead, practice, and I can't wait to see what you will achieve with this design. So good luck.